plenty of road grime and just general winter dirt. It's not too terrible. Kind of tricky to show you because there's not much space, but that side's mostly cleaned out. And this side, I thought that was under seal, it's not, it's just dirt. So I'm just taking a bit of time hosing all of that out. Look how much cleaner that is. That literally looked like it had been undersealed. And that's all lovely. There's a bit of grot there, but yeah, it's fine. Here's a tip for you. These things, when they wear out and go all there, they're great for doing in arches. I haven't really got the time today to take these wheels off and get in here properly, so I will do that when I finish doing the outside. If I've got enough time, I'll stick it on the end of this video. We'll see how we get on with it. So now we've hosed all the worst of the dirt off and had a good look in the arches, which are actually pretty good. You know, it's a bit grotty, but that's normal. So yeah, now we'll get soap and water on it and give it a good scrub down, and then another hose, and it's glass work, and yeah, see how we go. There we go. So, if you're a professional detailer, I'm very sorry. No, I'm not, I don't care. The paint on this thing is shot. So, I can do some to make it nicer, I can do a little bit here and there to spruce it up, and I will. But there's not much point going all 2 buckets and grit filters and... not on this one. It's good enough, and it's nice and shiny, and the red is very forgiving. Just like Dad used to do. Let's have a look at some of the problems I have to deal with to bring it up a little nicer. The wheel trims. They are covered in bits of paint, tar spots, and the usual rust staining and brake dust staining. That can all be fixed. The wheel arches, now I can see them properly, have a few blemishes around the edge. This is really, really normal. On the doors, this bit here on the rear door, which is this one, you can see it sticks out a bit and it's a funny shape. That will be full of filler. I'm leaving it alone. On the boot lid, there you go, you can just about see how flat and scratched and genuinely rubbish the paint is, and that's not a problem. There are some nice bits and pieces. At some point all the chrome's worn off on these 3 letters on the end. It's from rubbing against it with shopping bags and things, and presumably the first owner, because this has been on there a while, has bothered to paint it back in. And I kind of like that. This car's like that all over. There is a lot of filler in this arch. A lot of filler. I think that line is where the filler starts and the metal ends. I'm going to leave it alone. Up on the roof, I think someone's had a go at polishing this, because there's lots of, it's not really showing up on the camera, but there's lots of like swirly marks, and then there's this very thin spot just here. And at first I thought it was lacquer peel, but it looks more like they've just polished straight through. All over the car there's lots of little tar spots and bits of paint. I was trying to find somewhere that it showed it up, and I think the subcap's the best spot for it. You can get specialist tar removers and specialist products. If it's a nicer car, I would definitely recommend that. However, if you're just doing it on something like this where you want to clean it up a little bit, one of the best ways to do it on the cheap is this stuff. It works. But in my garage I found this stuff, which is probably as old as me. I've used it before, I don't know where it came from. We'll give it a go, see if we can get these spots off. Yep. You can see that smearing. I'm just using paper towel. It's slightly abrasive, but not massively so. Again, if you were doing a nicer car, then use nicer products. Use nicer materials, don't do this to it. This is just me. Well, I'm rolling a turd in glitter really, aren't I? But this is what I get enjoyment from. I like having a clean car, even if it's not the most glamorous thing. And I just like the challenge of using, well, pretty much the wrong products, but you can see all the tar it's pulling off. It smells quite nice, this stuff. I've found if I use this and leave it on and wait for it to melt the tar, all that happens is it evaporates. So I found load the cloth up quite well and just work one area over and over and over until it's clean. was a bit stubborn. There we go, it's gone. It'll never be perfect, but I don't mind. And that's what it's pulled off. Good stuff, you guys. One of the best ways to make any old car look better is clean the glass, clean the wheels. Don't do anything else, just those two things. Maybe throw a bucket of water over it. And it will look like you spent a lot more effort than you have. You can see there's quite a lot of dirt on the inside of this screen that you don't really notice. So I'm going to do the outside first and I'll do the inside. I am just using good old household window lean. Again, no need for fancy products, this stuff's all fine. The nice thing about the window lean is it doesn't streak. I think it's trying to rain as well, which is a bit annoying. Rain has stopped play. Every time I try and do anything, it just keeps raining on me, so... oh well. It's good enough. It looks nice and clean, it's not got all the mud up the sides, the wheel trims look silver again. I'm happy. A few months later, and it's finally stopped raining, so we're going to have another go at giving the Maestro a bit of a clean up today and get those arches cleared out and really inspect the paint, what's left of it, see if we can make anything any better. Got it all jacked up, as you can see it's on some axle stands. Let's have a quick look in the wheel arches. This one doesn't look too bad, to be honest with you. It's fairly clean, especially compared to the others. So I think this will just scrub up and there'll be nothing to do, which is what we want. All the various boots, they all look nice and healthy. There's no obvious signs of cracks or splits. So I'm quite happy about that. It does feel alright up front, the steering, the brakes, that all feels pretty good, so I don't really have any concerns up here. I mean, there's a little bit of surface rust over here, but it's nothing major. A little bit on the lip of the arch, but yeah, it's all very easy to deal with. Nothing scary. I pointed this out before, the bottom of the doors are rotten and they have been bodged, but that is fairly normal for Maestros and really cars of this age. Eventually I'll clear all that out, put some fresh steel in. The sills themselves, they seem quite good. I don't have any cause for concern there. A little bit of surface rust at the back, but it doesn't feel spongy or crunchy, so I'm not mega worried about the sills. I think they're okay. And underneath looks nice and solid too. This rear arch is shot. It's been repaired before, and the longer I've been driving it and using it, the more this crack where there's filler is opening up. So yeah, we've got plans afoot for getting the welder going again. I am having trouble finding an arch for this side. My current plan is to get a passenger arch, front passenger arch, and use it on the back, because the profiles are exactly the same. The only thing that's really different is your dog leg at the bottom here is shorter on the front wing. It stops here rather than carrying on, but this is a fairly simple profile, so I should be able to repair that. You can see there's a lot of dirt in here. This isn't under seal, this is mud. So I don't really know what I'm going to find until I get all of that cleared out. There is a bit of a dodgy spot just where the wheel splashes, so I think I'm probably going to find some holes. So let's get the hose and let's get all this cleaned out. Well, more aggressive cleaners and a power washer would probably get better results, but for what this car is and for what I use it for, that's fine. No nasty surprises. In fact, the surface rust that you can see there is not anywhere near as bad as I expected. I think there might be a little bit of a hole just here behind the trim, but those fixings are fossilised, so I'm not worrying about that. I did suspect this corner's had paint, and this here is overspray on plastic liners, so this wing has definitely been painted at some point. Not very surprising really, but strut tower looks nice and clean in there, and even some of the blue paint came up on the strut, so yeah, that's not bad. Onto the back, where I think the horrors really are. The inside of this wheel arch should be red, it shouldn't be black. It's just how much mud's in it. Yeah, there. Just going to bring you in for a closer look in this arch. It does look a lot like this is underseal probably on the camera, but most of it's actually just really thick mud. There is some underseal, but not a lot, so there's also some surprises. There's the hole, and you can see now that a lot of the mud's off, that there's quite a bit of something covering it up, so I have a patch to put in there. That's pretty normal. I'm not sure exactly what's going on at the bottom here. There's a little bit of everything, but you can see just to, there we go, this side here, that's all body filler squidged in from outside, which I did kind of expect. Not a great deal I can do about that today, but I can at least clean the mud off and keep everything as clean and dry as possible. But a lot of this is just really thick mud, and the fuel filler pipe here, I don't know if it's normal or not, but it appears to be in a plastic bag. I don't know if that's a thing that you do with Maestros or what, but I'll find out when I get it cleaned off. And you see on this side, this is still just caked in so much dirt. But that's probably why that rust hole went through the MOT. You couldn't see it wasn't visible. So, and they can't go digging unless they see telltales. They just look like lumpy underseal and mud. So that's why I'm doing this job, so I can see exactly what I'm dealing with. This is a high mileage 80s car, it's going to have rot. The only real surprise is the underseal on the tower here. That seems fairly stable. It doesn't seem to be hiding anything particularly, so I think mostly I'm going to just leave that alone. I don't feel like kicking that particular hornet's nest. I don't know about this bag. I'm going to leave it for now and keep an eye on it, but my feeling is somebody's put that on to try and stop it rotting out and then undersealed over the top of it. But the plastic's failing, so any water that gets in might not be able to get out. Back of the arch, where the wheel sprays up, which is, where are we, about this line-ish. That's actually pretty good. I mean, there's no sign of problems on the inside of the car on this side, so that's nice. There's a few little blisters, but they're not weldable. They're not like, haven't holed. And the bottom edge of the wing here, that also looks pretty good. I mean, there's something going. There's metal here, and there is filler as well, so there's definitely something going on. It's tempting to pick the scab, but I'm not going to. There's a fair bit of filler squidged through from outside. This bit of the arch here is actually metal, so it looks like it's rotted from the inside out, and that's why the filler's in it, but I don't know for definite. Again, I'm not going to dig until I have the tools to put it right again. Yeah, I mean, overall, that's not terrible. It's all very repairable. Contents of the bucket. I've not washed this out, I've just drained it, but that's all the sludge, most of which came out that rear arch. Quick talk about weapons of choice when it comes to cleaning an old heap like this. Key thing is not necessarily buy the cheapest you can, buy the most suitable that you can. You don't want to be spending money on things like, you know, top end stuff. This isn't a top end car, it's a bottom end car. But it doesn't mean you don't have to treat it badly. You can still care about it, and I do. So one of the best all-rounders I've found when it comes to value for money is Autoglym. It's great. I've used it for years. It seems a bit expensive when you first get it, but it goes a very long way. So when you compare it to things like the shop's own brand shampoo wax combination things, you actually spend less money on this than you do on those, because you need to use so much less of it. Also, if you've got a very dirty car, you can just increase the concentration and it will cut through it. It smells nice. Doesn't dry your hands out too badly either. A lot of the other ones can. Good old-fashioned tea cut. This stuff has been around, well, probably as long as cars. If you've got single stage paint, this isn't single stage, this does have a lacquer on it. But if you've got old paint that you just want to freshen up, you want to get rid of some cloudiness or some scratches, that stuff will do it most of the time. It'll just make it look a bit nicer, keep it clean a bit longer once you've waxed it afterwards. And speaking of wax, another oldie but a goodie, turtle wax. This one's the hard shell shine, and it's very easy to use, it goes a long way, it doesn't cost very much. This is some ancient Holt's tar remover. I don't think you can still buy it, but it's very good. Generic tyre shine, don't always use it, but I do use it sometimes. Probably won't this time round. These tyres are getting ready to be replaced, but we'll see. For the glass, I use, it's not out here at the moment, but I use a generic household glass cleaner. If it's the first clean on the glass, I also use a clay bar, because this stuff gets all the dirt out of the scratches, which causes the glass to streak and make a bit of a mess. So if you're doing the first clean on the car, use some clay bar first over all the surfaces. You're not going to do any harm to the clay bar or the glass, and then go through your usual routine with your household glass cleaner or whatever glass cleaner you want to use. And I finish off another Autoglym product. This stuff just keeps the dirt off for a very long time. It's well worth using. When it comes to the actual applying of your soapy water and all that sort of business, I don't use 2 buckets, I don't use a grit guard unless it's something I really care about, and as much as I like this car, it's not a 2 bucket job, really, it's not. So I'm going to go through, give this a wash like I tried to do last time. It is a gorgeous day today, so hopefully we'll get it done this time. Let's crack on. The whole point of this stage is to get all the loose debris off. It also helps get rid of most of the bird poos. Not all of them, but most of them. And it just means when you give it its first wash with the soapy water, you're not rubbing all the grit in. So this washes it all down off the car and onto the floor. One thing I don't use when I'm washing a car is a sponge. I don't like how they feel, for one thing, and I don't like the way that they can grab onto dirt, so instead I use just flannels. They're good enough for your face, they're good enough for a car. They're nice and cheap, they go through the washing machine, and if you use a nice cotton one, they seem to last a good long time. There we go, that's the last of it done, at least for the wash down. It's always worth doing your door shuts as well. People always forget to do them, but it is worth doing them. That way when you rinse everything off, you don't get all the dirt bleeding out and down your sills and stuff. So after you've given it the wash with the soapy water, that dislodges a lot more dirt. And you can see a lot of that on the windscreen there. So you do need to rinse it off after you've done, just to get rid of all of that. But because of the detergents, it's not going to stick, it's not going to cause you any problems. You can see especially on this door shut here, a lot of that comes out of where the door seal is and gets stuck, so it's always worth doing these bits. It can be a little bit tricky to rinse off, but if you're careful you can manage it. This is going to need a couple more goes. If you don't get something all the way the first try, don't worry about it, just do a bit every time you wash the car and eventually you'll cut through it all. Just take a few attempts. The other thing with hatchbacks, always do this bit up here. Everybody forgets. And it gets full of moss and leaves. On some cars you get quite a build-up and then it just doesn't drain, it leaks into the car, or even worse, it starts rotting the car out. And your other bit to pay attention to are these scuttles here. They tend to collect leaves and seeds, and it's just worth giving that a scrub out. So I'm going to give this a rinse off, and it's going to dry in about 5 seconds flat in this temperature. Normally this is when you'd wax the car, but as you can see it's a very sunny day, and if I start trying to wax that, it's not going to work. So for now I'm not going to worry about that stage. Right then, let's do some glass. I'm not going to bother clay barring these windows, I've already cleaned them so they don't really need it. I'm going to be using Windoline. It's just household stuff. You don't have to use Windoline, any other brand will do. and 2 microfiber cloths. It's important you use 2. Just like any other window, you just spray it on. And I always crack the window down a little bit, and then you can clean along the top. Now, the reason for doing this is you get a line around the top of the window, and if you don't clean this off, you get all like moss and lichen and just dirt. So it's always worth doing that little bit first. Wind the window up, and you put the cleaner on with one cloth and buff with your other. That prevents a lot of the streaking. The other thing, I've gone horizontally on the inside, so we go vertically on the outside. Now this is what my gran taught me. And the reason for going one direction on the inside and another on the outside is if you've got streaks on the glass, you can see which side it is. So I know if I've got up and down streaks, it's on this side. And if I've got side to side streaks, it's on the inside. It's one of those things where when somebody points it out to you, it seems really obvious and you feel really silly for not having done it. Another thing my gran taught me: when you clean the glass on a house or a car or a display cabinet or anything like that, you don't need to clean the rest of it for people to think it's clean. So if you're in a bit of a rush and you want to make a good impression, just clean the glass, ignore the rest. Now the glass is all nice and clean, it's time to keep it that way, and we're going to use this stuff, which goes a very long way. It lasts a very long time. I have to give the bottle a shake first, and just like with the glass cleaner, use one cloth to apply and one cloth to buff. I do prefer to use microfiber cloths for the glass. They seem to be the least prone to streaking. And you just use this like you would regular car polish. It smells amazing, this stuff. I really, really like it. And this will fill all the little scratches in the glass that kind of starburst and make the windows look a bit grubby and dirty. You just put it on, wait for it to go white, and then you buff it off. Usually that does an excellent job at keeping all the pollen off and all of the sort of soot and sandy dirt. It keeps your glass cleaner for a lot longer. It also helps in the rain. Helps keep your windows clear. So next thing is to stick the wheel trims back on, and when it cools down or goes a bit cloudy later, I can give this a wax. But right now it's a bit too bright and sunny to be using wax. There was a slight hiccup. I went to use a wax and it's dried out. The lids on these are a bit rubbish. It looks like I hadn't put it on quite properly. One quick run to the shop. Updated version, better lid. So, wax on, wax off. This stuff's really easy to use, which is why I like it. There's very little effort involved in it. It doesn't need applying that often. You can do it every time, but you can leave it months between. And again, it stops all that pollen sticking, which we have a lot of at the moment. Because this hasn't been done, at least by me, I don't know if the previous owner did it either. I'm being fairly generous. I don't know how much it's going to drink up. It's already hazing off, which is good. And I know waxing your car seems like a lot of work, but really, this saves you work. If you do this every now and then, it stays looking clean for longer, so you have to wash it less often. And the more you wax a car, the less you have to do it. There we go. I'm going to go around the rest of the car and I'll bring you back when I'm finished. Yeah, that's a good dog for all right.